Hello there, English speakers. Today we'll talk about all the stuff from bees to Australia and some financial stuff. But let's start by taking a big, deep breath. So I got a question about what propolis was. Yeah, it's basically pukes from bees, or what they are building stuff with. It contains a lot of flavonoids, like quercetin is one of them. So they are generally good against inflammations and fungi and bacteria and viruses and so on. There is not so much research done for it. There is a little bit how you can help wounds heal and so on. You can get allergic reactions to it, just if you're allergic to onions and so on. So it's not totally safe, but it's one of the things that we can use. And I have linked an article down there, so if you're generally curious about it. There are other studies, for example on cinnamon, that you can put on wounds and they heal a little bit faster. Good lecture or interview actually from Dr. Bean again. One thing I found interesting here was in Uttar Pradesh, a big state in India, northern India. They started to use Ivermectin, very widely used, and then the epidemic just collapsed. Andrew Hill works for WHO, among other things, and you can read the comments if you're not on YouTube about that. Then I will warn people for this propaganda. As we have learned, I will do a good explanation about the interview I did on Swedish, in Swedish, about someone, Roger, who got cured from cancer by eating well. Big Pharma is very good at spreading bad information and pushing this out in media. So homeopathy is said to be like you take a drug and then you dilute it so much that there is basically nothing left, and this should be a medicine and it's all a hoax. That's not exactly what homeopathy is. We'll do an interview about it and learn more on Tuesday, so I guess I will learn more. But the main thing about it, the general principle that started in the 17th century or 18th century. If you have any drug and you take it, then the body will sort of adjust. So if you take melatonin, then your body will have problems producing it itself. If you take a lot of testosterone, your testicles will stop producing so much, and so on and so on. So the idea is, if you have some sickness, you give the body a drug that causes, or a drug or a remedy that causes the same problem, but you give very little of it. So you will generally get worse in the beginning, and then after a while your body will over-adjust, and the problem that you were trying to solve will get better. And that's the general idea behind it, and it contains a lot of more things. But I just wanted to warn you about what you have heard about homeopathy is not what it actually is. It's fake news. Victor X is a Swedish whistleblower that have exposed some corruption, and he has been fleeing from Sweden to United Arab Emirates and now to USA. He is planning to do a hunger strike outside of the White House to expose both things like the Swedish big banks, SEB and Swedbank, that he is saying have been laundering money. So this will be interesting to follow more about the financial stuff later. Gleen Greenwald, I recommend to follow him generally because he's something that's very rare now. He's a good journalist and not an activist. Well, maybe he is in some ways, but I mean, that's not his main focus. And he exposes now how, especially New York Times, how awful, evil and horrible they have been about this January 6th incident at the Capitol. For example, they said that a cop was beaten to death with a fire extinguisher, which never happened. He died for other reasons the day after. And they just didn't care. They want to destroy USA and the world and misinform their readers. So continue to warn people about media. Australia is having a fight with Facebook. So you have this big oppressive stupid government fighting big evil Facebook. So yeah, get your popcorns ready. Australia wanted to control or get some money from Facebook for everyone who posts a link to some of their corrupt media. And Facebook said, no, we will just forbid everyone to post links to Australian media. And yeah, hopefully this hurt both the government and Facebook very much. I can't say that Facebook is wrong here. The government is just stupid. You can't have regulations like that. It's just stupid. And then we have interesting about media in Sweden. The government is handing out some media support, mostly to left-wing rags or whatever. The biggest supporter is, however, something similar to Fox News, but yeah, it's a very establishment right-wing paper. So now the government wants to control so that no so-called fake news will not be allowed anymore. But I guess, as usual, you can quote New York Times and other liars. That will be okay because the government allows them. Interesting here. I talked a little bit yesterday about Tether and the crypto assets that are stablecoins and how much they have been growing. New article here from Zero Hedge. It's a very good indicator of how much the system and all this decentralized finances and so on, how big it is. So Tether have grown from 24 to 33 billion US dollars, and this indicates how much use these assets are. If this growth continues, there will be more US dollars on the blockchain in the end of 2022. So in less than 2 years, there will be more money on the blockchain, more US dollars than the total treasury, or what's called the treasuries, all the bonds and stuff that US government has given out. So that will be a lot of money, and what's more interesting is how lending and trading will change. I don't think we will get rid of all these banks rigging markets, investment banks and so on. That corruption can still work. The interesting part is that they will become working on markets that are decentralized and they never close, and the fees are lower and no one can really stop them. And there will be interesting ways to take a loan and so on. You put up some information about you and your company, or why you want to borrow some money, and then everyone can bid on that. So I think this will be a big thing, and the growth will not continue at the same speed as now. I think it will accelerate, because it's just like when internet started. It wasn't something that got more and more popular. It also became more and more useful the bigger it was. And the same thing is with these decentralized markets. Not only are they getting technically better with better apps, faster blockchains and lower fees and so on, but the more people use them, the more usable are they. If you only have US dollar and euros on tokens, well, that's not very useful. But when you start to have all assets as these tokens, then you can trade basically everything. And the forex market, that is the trade with currencies, that is a huge market. And if that can be taken away from the centralized exchanges of different kinds, it's of course a big thing if it's making stuff better and cheaper, especially for, I don't think it will be a big economic thing in numbers of dollars and change in industries, but it will be a big thing for individuals who now have to pay many percent in fees just to change one currency into another. That is outrageous. So if that cost can simply almost go away, it will be much easier for small companies to run their businesses. And then I end with a interesting thing from the Action Lab. If you want to listen to something that might make you crazy, it's called shepherd tones. So it's tones that seems to be higher and higher and higher and higher and never stop. I heard exactly what it was, but I think in images and signals in a way that most people maybe don't. And if you're into music, you also know, you can see what's happening in these shepherd tunes. I didn't hear anyone who got really confused about it, but maybe if you haven't heard anything like this and you're not into music or signal analysis, maybe you will find something interesting, or you might go mad. So watch that if you want to have some fun. And tonight I will work on the translation of Roger's story about his cancer and Sassio's cancer treatment tips.